Welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Gilded Cage. Merrick Lachlan stood at the window of his study, swirling 18-year-old Macallan in a crystal tumbler. Outside, the manicured grounds of his Westchester estate stretched toward the horizon like a green sea. To anyone looking in, he had everything. The successful security firm he'd built from nothing, the sprawling mansion, the beautiful wife, and the 10-year-old son who shared his piercing blue eyes. The clock on his desk read 11:17 p.m. Vanessa would be home soon, reeking of her tennis instructor's cologne, with another elaborate lie about why her 2-hour lesson had stretched to 4. Merrick took a measured sip of whiskey, letting the burn settle in his chest. He never raised his voice, never showed his hand, a skill honed through years in military intelligence before founding Lachlan Security. "Dad!" His son's voice pulled him from his thoughts. Rowan stood in the doorway, pajama-clad and sleepy-eyed. "Hey, champ." Merrick's voice softened as he set down his glass. "Another nightmare?" Rowan nodded, shuffling forward. At 10, he was thoughtful and observant, too observant sometimes. "I dream Mom didn't come home." Something cold tightened in Merrick's chest. "Your mother always comes home, buddy." Even as the words left his mouth, Merrick thought of the offshore accounts he'd discovered last month, accounts growing fat with money he'd earned. He thought of Vanessa's newly acquired burner phone, hidden in the lining of her tennis bag. He thought of the hushed late-night calls that stopped the moment he entered a room. "Why don't I tuck you back in?" Merrick guided his son back to bed, telling him stories about his own childhood in rural Pennsylvania, how he'd climbed out of poverty through sheer force of will, enlisting at 18 and never looking back. After Rowan drifted off, Merrick returned to his study and unlocked the hidden safe behind a first-edition Hemingway. Inside lay a black notebook containing everything he knew about his wife's betrayal. The entries had started 3 months ago, when his instincts, the same ones that had kept him alive in war zones, whispered that something was wrong. The garage door hummed. Vanessa was home. Merrick returned the notebook to its hiding place, resumed his position by the window, and practiced the smile he'd perfected, the one that never reached his eyes. "You're still up." Vanessa's voice carried a hint of accusation. She stood in the doorway, blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, tennis whites pristine despite her supposed intensive workout. "Just finishing some work." Merrick gestured to the laptop he'd strategically opened. "How was tennis?" "Exhausting." She didn't meet his eyes. "Coach Damien is a sadist." Merrick knew there was no Coach Damien at the country club. The tennis instructor was Preston Woods, age 34, recently divorced. But he nodded, playing his part. "You're dedicated." She hesitated, then crossed the room to kiss his cheek. "Our anniversary dinner is still on for tomorrow, right? I've been looking forward to it all month." 15 years. Merrick smiled, the lie smooth as honey. "Wouldn't miss it." As she retreated to shower away the evidence of her afternoon, Merrick turned back to the window. His reflection stared back, a man with cold eyes and a patient smile. He'd built his security company on a simple philosophy: identify the threat, gather intelligence, and strike only when you have absolute advantage. Vanessa didn't know it yet, but she was the most dangerous adversary he'd ever faced. And tomorrow night, at the anniversary dinner she'd requested at Lou Bernardine, he'd discover just how deep her betrayal went. Chapter 2. Blood Ties. The summer morning broke hot and humid over the estate as Merrick completed his 5-mile run, a routine unchanged since his military days. As he cooled down on the terrace, his phone vibrated, a text from his younger brother, Barrett. "Need to talk ASAP. Not over phone." Merrick frowned. Barrett was the artistic one, the dreamer who'd struggled to find his footing after their brutal childhood. Where Merrick had escaped through military discipline, Barrett had sought release through art and, for a dark period, substances that nearly killed him. Merrick had pulled him back from that edge, paid for rehab, then funded his art gallery in Manhattan. Barrett was the only blood family Merrick had left, which made his recent behavior all the more concerning. For weeks, Barrett had been canceling their usual Sunday dinners. When they did speak, his brother seemed distracted, nervous. Twice, Merrick caught him in lies about his whereabouts. Now, this cryptic message. Usual place. Noon. He sent a response and headed inside to shower. Vanessa was at the kitchen island, scrolling through her phone while nibbling toast. She wore a silk robe tied loosely at the waist, her skin still flushed from sleep. "Morning, darling." She smiled, but the expression didn't reach her eyes. "You're out early." "Couldn't sleep." Merrick poured himself coffee. "Excited about tonight, I guess." Something like guilt flickered across her face. "About that, I need to run some errands before dinner. Would you mind taking Rowan to his play date at Dylan's?" Dylan, another fictitious friend. Merrick had checked with every Dylan in Rowan's class. None at playdate scheduled. Of course. He kissed her forehead, inhaling the scent of her expensive shampoo. "Anything for you." At noon, Merrick found Barrett at their usual spot, a bench overlooking the Hudson in Riverside Park. His brother looked thinner, his artist's hands fidgeting with a lighter, though he'd quit smoking years ago. "You look like shit," Merrick said by way of greeting. Barrett's laugh was hollow. "Good to see you too, big brother." They sat in silence for a moment, watching boats slice through the gray water. Finally, Barrett spoke. "Remember when Dad broke your arm for stealing food from the pantry?" Merrick stiffened. They rarely discussed their father, a violent alcoholic who'd terrorized their childhood home until a stroke took him when Merrick was 17. "I remember you took the blame," Merrick said carefully, "even though we both knew it was me who took that bread." Barrett nodded, eyes distant. "You've been protecting me my whole life. Figured I owed you one." He turned to face Merrick, his expression tortured. What if I've done something that can't be fixed? Something that would make you hate me?" A cold weight settled in Merrick's stomach. "Barrett, whatever trouble you're in." "It's not what you think," Barrett interrupted. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and the color drained from his face. "I have to go." "Barrett, I'm sorry." His brother stood abruptly. "I shouldn't have called you. Forget I said anything." He hurried away, leaving Merrick alone on the bench. Merrick watched him go, then pulled out his own phone. He sent a text to Flynn Westridge, his head of security and the only man he truly trusted. "Need surveillance on Barrett. 24/7. Start now." By afternoon, Merrick was back at the estate, ostensibly to take Rowan to his playdate. Instead, he found his son in the garden, building an elaborate fort with branches and lawn furniture. "Where's Mom?" Rowan asked when he spotted his father. "Running errands," Merrick replied, crouching beside him. "Thought you had a playdate with Dylan?" Rowan looked confused. "I don't know any Dylan, Dad." Merrick's phone vibrated. A text from Flynn. "Be meeting with V at Rialto Cafe. Sending photos." Ice flooded Merrick's veins. His wife and his brother. The photos arrived seconds later. Vanessa and Barrett in an intimate conversation, heads close together, her hand on his arm. "Dad!" Rowan was staring at him. "Your face went weird." Merrick forced a smile. "Just work stuff. Hey, how about we build this fort together? Make it big enough for both of us." As they worked, Merrick's mind raced. The pieces were coming together. Vanessa's lies, Barrett's guilt, the money disappearing into offshore accounts. But why involve Rowan? What was the end game? His phone buzzed again. "Flynn, they're on the move. Heading to law office on 52nd. Henderson and White, specialists in custody cases." Custody. The final piece clicked into place. They weren't just planning to leave him. They were planning to take his son. Merrick looked at Rowan, laughing as he tried to balance a branch on top of their fort. His son, the only pure thing in his life. The only person who had never betrayed him. "Hey, Dad," Rowan called. "This is going to be the best fort ever, right?" Merrick felt the cold resolve of his military days settle over him like armor. "Right, buddy. No one's going to break into this fort. I promise you that." His anniversary gift to Vanessa was already arranged. A custom Cartier bracelet in a red box. But now Merrick had something else planned for their special evening. Something she would never forget. Chapter 3. The Revelation. Luke Bernardine glittered with candlelight and old New York elegance. Merrick sat across from Vanessa at the best table in the house, watching her sip champagne. She wore a black dress that hugged her curves, diamond earrings he'd given her on their 10th anniversary, catching the light when she moved. To 15 years, Merrick raised his glass. Still as beautiful as the day we met. Vanessa's smile faltered slightly. 15 incredible years. They ordered her favorite sea base for her, steak for him. The conversation stayed on safe topics. Charity galas, Rowan's upcoming school projects, the renovations they'd been planning for the East Wing. Anyone watching would see a power couple celebrating a milestone. No one would guess that Merrick was cataloging every lie, noting how her eyes darted to the door every few minutes. The waiter had just cleared their entrees when Vanessa set down her napkin, her expression suddenly serious. "Merrick, there's something I need to tell you." He took a sip of water, his face revealing nothing. "I'm listening." "It's about Rowan." She twisted her wedding ring, a nervous habit. "I've enrolled him in the Thornfield Academy. It's a prestigious boarding school in Switzerland. The education is world-class, and the security is impeccable." Merrick set his glass down carefully. "When were you planning to discuss this with me?" "That's just it. There wasn't time." Her voice took on a rehearsed quality. "They had a last-minute opening. He leaves tomorrow." "Tomorrow," Merrick repeated, his tone flat. Vanessa reached across the table, taking his hand. Her palm was clammy. "Everyone agrees it's best. His teachers, the educational consultant we saw last month." "We never saw an educational consultant." She faltered, then recovered. "Remember, Dr. Brenner? You were so busy with the Tokyo contract. You must have forgotten." "Must have." Merrick smiled thinly. "What's the name again?" "Thornfield Academy." "Yes. I have all the paperwork at home. The car comes at 9 tomorrow morning." Merrick nodded slowly. "And Barrett? Does he agree this is best too?" The color drained from Vanessa's face. "Barrett? Why would Barrett?" "Don't." The word was soft, but carried enough force to stop her mid-sentence. "I know about the meetings, the custody lawyer, the offshore accounts. I know about the fake passports and the flights to Buenos Aires." Vanessa's hand jerked away from his. "You're confused. I don't know what you're talking about." After dinner, Merrick continued as if she hadn't spoken. "I called this supposed academy. Remarkably, they have no record of a Rowan Lockland. No last-minute openings, either." Sweat beaded on Vanessa's upper lip. "There must be some mistake." "The mistake," Merrick interrupted, "was thinking I wouldn't find out. That I would just let you walk away with my son. With my brother." He leaned forward. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice the money transfers? The burner phone? The fake passport application with my forged signature?" "Merrick, please. You've been planning this for months. Using my brother against me. Making me think I was losing my mind with all your little lies." He sat back, his voice returning to a conversational tone. "So here's what happens now. I'm going to pay the bill. Then we're going to that airport where you're meeting Barrett. The one where you have a private jet waiting. And we'll see what happens next." "You don't understand," Vanessa whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "We had to do it this way. You would never have let us go." "Us?" Merrick's voice was dangerously quiet. "You and Barrett, you mean?" "Me and Rowan," she hissed. "Barrett was just helping me get away from you. Do you have any idea what it's like living with you? The constant control, the surveillance, the way you micromanage everything in our lives." Merrick signaled for the check. "And yet you've been happy to spend my money. Live at my house. All while planning to steal my son." He handed his credit card to the waiter. "Where is Rowan now?" "Safe," she said defiantly. "Away from you. With Barrett." She didn't answer, which was answer enough. The ride to Teterboro Airport was silent. Vanessa stared out the window, occasionally checking her phone, though Merrick knew she wouldn't risk texting Barrett with him beside her. Flynn had already texted him the details. A Gulfstream G550 chartered under a shell company, scheduled for a 10:30 p.m. departure to Buenos Aires. Barrett had arrived 30 minutes ago with Rowan, claiming to be the boy's father. When they pulled up to the private terminal, Merrick nodded to the security guards positioned discreetly around the entrance. All his men, all loyal to him. "After you," he told Vanessa, his hand firm on her elbow. Inside, Barrett paced near the check-in desk, while Rowan sat nearby, absorbed in a handheld game. The boy looked up as they entered, his face brightening. "Mom, Dad, are you coming on the surprise trip too?" Barrett froze at the sight of Merrick, his face ashen. "Mare, listen." "Hello, brother." Merrick's voice was ice. Quite the family vacation you've planned. Barrett's eyes darted between Merrick and the exit. Vanessa, what's he doing here? Saving my son, Merrick replied, nodding to Flynn, who stepped forward with 3 police officers. And making sure you both face consequences. Daddy. Rowan looked confused, the game forgotten in his lap. What's happening? One of the officers moved toward Barrett. Mr. Lockland, you're under arrest for attempted kidnapping and fraud. Barrett backed away. No, you don't understand. We were protecting the boy. Merrick is dangerous. Tell them, Vanessa. But Vanessa stood frozen, her face a mask of shock as another officer approached her. Vanessa Lockland, you're under arrest for attempted parental kidnapping, fraud, and theft. You can't do this, she whispered to Merrick. They'll never believe you. Merrick's smile was cold. I have conversation you've had for the past 3 months, text, email planning this little escape. I have the forged passport applications. I have the offshore accounts where you've been siphoning my money. He leaned closer. I've been 10 steps ahead from the beginning. You never had a chance. As the officers led them away, Barrett and Vanessa turned pale, the reality of their situation sinking in. Merrick knelt before his confused son. Hey, champ, change of plans. How about you and I go home and have some ice cream? Tomorrow's a new day. Rowan nodded uncertainly, looking back at his mother being escorted away. Are Mom and Uncle Barrett in trouble? Merrick's expression revealed nothing of the storm inside him. They made some bad choices, buddy. But you and me, we're going to be just fine. As they walked out, Merrick didn't look back at the woman who'd betrayed him or the brother who'd conspired against him. Their chapter in his life was over. But his story, his revenge, was just beginning. Chapter 4, Ashes and Evidence. The morning after the airport confrontation dawned gray and drizzling, matching Merrick's mood as he sat in his attorney's office. Porter Ridgway had represented Lockland Security since its inception, but today he wasn't here as a business lawyer. Kidnapping, fraud, grand theft, the charges are substantial, Porter said, sliding a document across the mahogany desk. They're being held without bail for now, but Barrett's already hired Nathaniel Chambers. Merrick's jaw tightened. Chambers was a shark who specialized in getting wealthy clients out of seemingly impossible situations. Of course he has. With my money, no doubt. Likely. Porter removed his glasses, looking genuinely troubled. Merrick, there's something else. Barrett is claiming that you're abusive, to both Vanessa and Rowan. He's painting this as a rescue mission, not a kidnapping. The accusation hit Merrick like a physical blow. That's absurd. I've never laid a hand on either of them. Abuse takes many forms, Porter said carefully. They're claiming psychological abuse, control, isolation. They're lying. Merrick's voice was flat. I have video of them planning this for months. Audio of them discussing how to empty my accounts once they were safely away. Porter nodded. Good. We'll need all of it. He hesitated. There's also the matter of Rowan. The court has granted you temporary sole custody, but there will be evaluations. Social workers, psychologists. Whatever it takes. Merrick stood, buttoning his suit jacket. My son stays with me. On the drive home, rain streaked the windows of his Range Rover as Merrick called Flynn. I need everything. Every place they've been, everyone they've spoken to. Something pushed them to act now, after months of planning. I want to know what. Already on it, Flynn replied. Found something interesting in Barrett's studio. He's been meeting with a woman named Solane Dupré. French passport. Entered the country 3 months ago. She's been staying at the Archer Hotel under a different name. Merrick frowned. Connection to Vanessa? Nothing direct yet. But here's where it gets interesting. Dupré has made 4 trips to Buenos Aires in the past year. And she's made calls to a law firm there that specializes in, get this, establishing new identities. A cold feeling settled in Merrick's stomach. This goes deeper than I thought. Keep digging. At home, Merrick found Mrs. Winters, the housekeeper who'd been with them since Rowan was born, preparing lunch for his son. How is he? Merrick asked quietly. Mrs. Winters shook her head, confused. He keeps asking when his mother's coming home. I didn't know what to tell him. I'll talk to him. Merrick found Rowan in the game room, listlessly pushing buttons on a controller. Hey, champ. Merrick sat beside him on the couch. Want to talk about what happened? Rowan kept his eyes on the screen. Mom and Uncle Barrett did something bad. Yes. Are they going to prison? Merrick chose his words carefully. They might. They try to take you away without telling me, without the court's permission. That's against the law. Rowan finally looked at him, blue eyes troubled. Mom said we were going on an adventure, that you were too busy for us anyway. The word stung, but Merrick kept his expression neutral. Did she say anything else? About where you were going? Or what? Rowan frowned, thinking. She said we were going somewhere safe, and that we'd have a new start. He hesitated. Dad, is our house not safe? Our house is perfectly safe. Merrick pulled his son into a hug. And I will always, always protect you, no matter what. After tucking Rowan in that night, Merrick retreated to his study with a tumbler of whiskey. On his desk sat a stack of files Flynn had delivered, everything they'd uncovered so far about the plot against him. He opened the first file, surveillance photos of Barrett meeting with a mysterious Solane Dupre. The woman was striking, mid-30s, with sharp cheekbones and calculating eyes. Nothing in her expression suggested a romantic entanglement with Barrett. The second file contained bank statements from the offshore accounts Vanessa had established. The amounts were significant, nearly $12 million transferred over 3 months. But the money trail didn't end there. From the offshore accounts, funds had been wired to various entities, including a shell corporation in Buenos Aires called Phoenix Rebirth. Merrick's phone rang. Flynn, you're going to want to see this, Flynn said without preamble. Barrett had a storage unit in Brooklyn under a different name. We found correspondence between him and someone called the architect. Detailed plans for new identities, new lives, not just for them, but for at least 20 other people. Merrick sat up straighter. A network. Looks that way. And Vanessa was more than just a participant. Based on the emails we recovered from her burner phone, she was a key player. They call her the Gateway. The pieces were starting to form a disturbing picture. This wasn't just a wife and brother trying to run away together. This was organized, professional, an operation to help people disappear completely. There's more, Flynn continued. We found a list of names, people who've already gone through their program. One of them is Geneva Lockland. Merrick froze. My mother can't confirm it's the same Geneva Lockland, but the dates match up. According to these records, she went through their program 5 years ago. Merrick's mind reeled. His mother had died of cancer when he was 19, or so he'd been told. He'd never seen a body, had been deployed overseas when it happened. Barrett had handled everything. I want everything you can find on Geneva Lockland. Death certificate, hospital records, everything, Merrick said, his voice tight. And I want to speak to Vanessa. Tonight. An hour later, Merrick sat across from his wife in an interrogation room at the county jail. Vanessa looked smaller without her designer clothes and perfect makeup, dressed in an orange jumpsuit with her blonde hair pulled back in a severe ponytail. You're looking well, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Enjoying having the house to yourself? Merrick placed a folder on the table between them. Phoenix Rebirth. The architect. The Gateway. He watched her face carefully. What the hell have you been involved in, Vanessa? She gave him a thin smile. I have no idea what you're talking about. Don't bother. He opened the folder, showing her copies of emails she'd sent from her burner phone. You're helping people disappear. For money? Or is there some higher cause I'm missing? Her smile faltered, then returned with forced brightness. You always were good at digging up secrets, Merrick. It's what made you so successful, and so insufferable to live with. My mother, Merrick said flatly. Is she alive? Something flickered in Vanessa's eyes, surprise, followed quickly by calculation. Why would you think that? Her name is on your list. Vanessa leaned back, studying him. You know, for someone who prides himself on knowing everything, you've missed the most important thing right in front of you. And what's that? That some people need to disappear. Want to disappear. For men like you. Merrick's control slipped for just a moment, anger flashing across his face. Men like me? Controlling. Obsessive. Men who monitor their wives' every move, track their phones, question their every decision. Her voice had risen slightly. Men who build security empires while their own families feel like prisoners. So, this is about liberation? Merrick's tone was skeptical. You're helping women escape abusive relationships by stealing their husband's money and taking their children? Sometimes it's the only way. Vanessa's eyes hardened. You'd never have let me go. Not really. You never asked to go, Merrick countered. You just planned to disappear with my son and my brother. Your precious son. Vanessa's laugh was bitter. Did you ever wonder why Rowan has your eyes, Merrick? Your exact shade of blue? What are the odds, considering you're not his biological father? Merrick's face remained impassive, but something cold settled in his chest. Another lie? DNA doesn't lie. Ask Barrett why he was so invested in helping us escape. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. Blood calls to blood, doesn't it? The implication hung in the air between them. Merrick stood abruptly. You're done, Vanessa. You, Barrett, this entire operation, I'm going to dismantle it piece by piece. And when I'm finished, you'll have nothing. As he turned to leave, Vanessa called after him. You can't stop Phoenix, Merrick. We're everywhere. And we're just getting started. In the hallway outside, Merrick leaned against the wall, his composure finally cracking. The betrayal went deeper than he'd imagined. Not just his wife and brother planning to leave, but a conspiracy that potentially involved his own mother. And Rowan. Could Vanessa be telling the truth about his son? His phone buzzed with a text from Flynn. Found something in Barrett's studio apartment. You need to see it yourself. It changes everything. Merrick straightened, adjusted his tie, and walked out into the night. Whatever waited at Barrett's studio, whatever truth lay buried in this conspiracy, he would face it. And then he would begin his real revenge. Chapter 5. The Architect. Barrett's studio occupied the top floor of a converted warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn. Even as Flynn unlocked the door, Merrick could smell the familiar sense of paint and turpentine that had always clung to his brother's clothes. We've been through everything, Flynn said, but you should see it for yourself. It's unsettling. The main space was typical Barrett, chaotic but organized in its own way, with canvases stacked against walls and art supplies covering every surface. But it was the back room that drew Merrick's attention. Flynn led him to a steel door with a sophisticated digital lock. Biometric, Flynn explained. We had to get creative to open it. Inside was a stark contrast to the artsy chaos of the studio. Sleek computers lined one wall. Filing cabinets with digital locks occupied another. In the center stood a large table covered with maps, passports, and identification documents in various stages of completion. But what stopped Merrick cold were the walls. They were covered with surveillance photos, hundreds of them. Photos of him, photos of Rowan, photos of Lachlan security facilities, photos of his clients. What the hell? Merrick moved closer, examining a series showing him at his office, at Rowan's school, at their favorite restaurant in the city. Barrett wasn't just your brother, Flynn said quietly. He was running counter-surveillance on you for at least 3 years. Merrick turned slowly, taking in the scope of the operation. This wasn't the work of an artist with a sideline in helping people disappear. This was professional, methodical, the work of someone with training. There's more. Flynn opened a drawer and removed a thick file labeled Simply M. Inside were details of Merrick's life, including information he'd never shared with anyone. Classified operations from his military days, details of security contracts that only a handful of people should have known about. He's been watching me my entire career, Merrick realized aloud. But why? What's the endgame? Flynn gestured to a laptop on the desk. The contents are encrypted, but we found this video file in a folder marked contingency. It was set to upload automatically to several news outlets tomorrow morning. He pressed play, and Barrett's face filled the screen. He looked tired, his eyes shadowed with worry. If you're seeing this, I'm either dead or in custody, Barrett began, his voice steady despite the strain evident on his face. My name is Barrett Lachlan, and I'm about to expose one of the most dangerous men in America, my brother, Merrick Lachlan. Merrick felt as if the floor had dropped away beneath him as Barrett continued. Through his company, Lachlan Security, Merrick has built a surveillance network that extends into every aspect of American life. His clients include government agencies, multinational corporations, and individuals who want to operate outside the law. But Lachlan Security isn't just providing protection. It's gathering information, building files on thousands of citizens, and using that information for control and extortion. Barrett's expression hardened. I know this because I helped build it. In the beginning, I believed in Merrick's vision of making the world safer. But I watched as my brother became the very thing he claimed to be fighting against. I've spent the last 5 years documenting his operations and building a network to help his victims escape. We call ourselves Phoenix Rebirth. The video continued with Barrett describing operations Merrick had indeed conducted, though twisted to seem sinister rather than security-focused. He detailed how Phoenix Rebirth helped victims disappear, creating new identities and new lives beyond Merrick's reach. Vanessa Lachlan, Merrick's wife, came to us 3 years ago after discovering the truth about her husband's operations. She's been instrumental in helping us identify and extract people at risk. But our most important extraction was yet to come. Rowan Lachlan, a child being groomed to take over his father's empire of surveillance and control. Merrick's hands clenched into fists as Barrett continued. If I failed, if Merrick has stopped us, then I ask whoever sees this to get it into the hands of the authorities listed in the attached documents. The evidence against Merrick Lachlan is overwhelming. He must be stopped before his influence spreads further. The video ended, leaving the room in silence. It's all lies, Merrick finally said, his voice tight with fury. He's twisting legitimate security operations into some conspiracy theory. Flynn nodded. Convincing lies, though, mixed with enough truth to seem credible. He hesitated. The file also contains what appears to be evidence. Emails, recordings, financial records, all doctored to support his claims. Merrick's mind raced, calculating the damage this would do if released. His clients included high-level government officials, corporations with sensitive security needs, individuals who valued privacy above all else. Even if eventually disproven, the allegations would destroy everything he'd built. He planned this for years, Merrick said softly. Use my trust against me. There's one more thing. Flynn looked uncomfortable. We found DNA test results. For you, Barrett, and Rowan. The paper Flynn handed him confirmed what Vanessa had implied. According to the test, Rowan shared significantly more genetic markers with Barrett than with Merrick. The conclusion was unmistakable. Barrett is Rowan's biological father. Merrick said, the words tasting like ash. Flynn cleared his throat. There's another test there, comparing your DNA with Barrett's. Merrick flipped to the second page. The results showed conclusively that he and Barrett shared no significant genetic markers. They were not biological brothers. The foundation of Merrick's life, his marriage, his brotherhood, his fatherhood, had been built on lies. Every relationship he'd trusted had been corrupted. He thought of Rowan, innocently building forts and playing games, unknowingly at the center of this web of deception. Sir, Flynn sounded concerned. What do you want to do? Merrick carefully placed the DNA results back in the folder. When he spoke, his voice was cold and precise. First, we prevent this video from uploading. Then we secure every piece of evidence in this room. I want to know everyone connected to Phoenix Rebirth, extraction they've performed, dollar they've moved. He turned to face Flynn, his expression resolute. And then we find the architect, the real one. Barrett's good, but he didn't design this operation. Someone else is pulling the strings. As they secured the studio, Merrick's phone rang, a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Lachlan. The voice was female, with a slight French accent. My name is Solane Dupre. I believe we have matters to discuss regarding Phoenix Rebirth. Ms. Dupre. Merrick kept his voice neutral. I was wondering when you'd surface. I'm not calling to surrender, she said, a hint of amusement in her tone. I'm calling to offer you clarity. The truth about your family. And why would you do that? Because contrary to what your wife and brother believe, this operation was never about you. You were merely collateral damage. The real target has always been something much larger. Her voice hardened. Meet me at the cloisters at noon tomorrow. Come alone, where you'll never know why your mother faked her own death. The line went dead. Merrick stared at the phone, then at the room full of evidence of his brother's betrayal. Change of plans, he told Flynn. I need a full profile on Solane Dupre by morning. And I need to know every connection between her, Barrett, Vanessa, and a woman named Geneva Lockland. As they left the studio, Merrick paused for one last look at the wall of surveillance photos. Years of his life watched and documented by someone he'd trusted completely. Whatever game Solane Dupre was playing, whatever truth she claimed to offer, one thing was certain. His revenge would extend to everyone involved in Phoenix Rebirth, right up to this mysterious architect. And if his mother was truly alive, if she had been part of this conspiracy all along, then not even blood would shield her from his retribution. Chapter 6. Blood Truths. The cloisters stood on a hill overlooking the Hudson. Medieval architecture transplanted stone by stone to form a sanctuary of art and history. Merrick arrived early, positioning security personnel at discreet distances throughout the museum and gardens. If Solane Dupre planned an ambush, she would find it prepared. He found her in the Unicorn Tapestries Gallery, studying the ancient weavings with genuine interest. In person, she was even more striking than in photographs, tall and elegant in a simple black pantsuit, her dark hair cut in a severe bob that accentuated her sharp cheekbones. "The hunt of a unicorn," she said without turning, somehow sensing his presence. Pursued by hunters, trapped, killed, and then miraculously resurrected. She finally faced him. "A fitting metaphor for our situation, wouldn't you say, Mr. Lockland?" "I'm not interested in metaphors, Ms. Dupre. Just the truth." She smiled thinly. "The truth is rarely simple, especially when it comes to family." She gestured to a bench position between two tapestries. "Shall we?" Merrick remained standing. "You claim to have information about my mother, Geneva Lockland." Solane nodded. "Or, as she prefers to be called now, Genevieve Mercier. She's alive and well in Marseille, where she's lived for the past 5 years." She removed a phone from her pocket, pulled up a photo, and handed it to Merrick. The woman in the image was older than he remembered, her once dark hair now silver, but unmistakably his mother. She sat at a cafe table, smiling at someone out of frame, looking more relaxed than Merrick had ever seen her. "Why?" The question came out rougher than he intended. "Why did she fake her death? Why did she never contact you?" Solane shrugged. "Some questions only Geneva can answer. But I can tell you that Phoenix Rebirth gave her a new start, away from a past that haunted her." "And Barrett? Was he always part of this organization?" "Barrett found us 3 years ago, after discovering certain truths about your family. Truths your mother had hidden from both of you." Solane's expression softened slightly. He was angry at first, betrayed. But eventually, he understood why she had done what she did. "And what truth was so devastating that it turned my brother against me? That made my wife plot to steal my son." Solane studied him for a long moment. "Has it occurred to you to question why your father was so brutal to you, yet comparatively gentle with Barrett? Why your mother always seemed to hover protectively when you were with your brother?" A cold feeling settled in Merrick's stomach. "Get to the point. Your father, Maxwell Lockland, was not Barrett's father. And Barrett is not your brother, not biologically." She let this sink in. "Barrett is your half-brother through your mother. His biological father was a man named Richard Havelock." The name hit Merrick like a physical blow. Richard Havelock, the founder of Criterion, Lockland Security's biggest competitor and longtime adversary. "That's impossible," Merrick said flatly. "Barrett was born 2 years after me. My parents were married. Affairs happen, Mr. Lockland, especially in unhappy marriages." Solane removed a document from her bag and handed it to him. "Your mother's diary from that time. She trusted me to give it to you if things went poorly." The journal was weathered, the handwriting unmistakably his mother's. As he skimmed the pages, the story emerged. Geneva's affair with Richard Havelock, her pregnancy, her decision to stay with Maxwell despite his increasing violence, her fear for both her sons. "Your father knew, of course," Solane said quietly. "He couldn't prove it, but he suspected. It's why he was so harsh with you, molding you into his image as the true Lockland son, and why he resented Barrett." Merrick closed the diary, his mind racing. "And Rowan? The DNA test showing Barrett as his father? That part, I'm afraid, is true." Vanessa and Barrett had a brief affair 7 years into your marriage. It wasn't planned, and they both regretted it immediately. But the result was Rowan. Solene's expression was almost sympathetic. Vanessa was going to tell you, but then she found something in your files, something about Operation Kingfisher. Merrick stiffened. Operation Kingfisher was classified, a security operation he'd run for a government client that had gone terribly wrong. 3 civilians had died. The incident had been buried, the families paid off. You've been busy, he said coldly. Phoenix Rebirth specializes in information, Mr. Lockland. Just like you. She leaned forward. Vanessa found the files. She saw what your company was capable of, what you were capable of. She became afraid for herself and for Rowan. That's when she contacted Barrett, who was already working with us. The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture Merrick didn't want to see. And the architect? The mastermind behind Phoenix Rebirth. Solene's expression changed subtly. That's not information I'm at liberty to share. It's Havelock, isn't it? Merrick pressed. He created this entire organization to undermine me, to steal my family. Phoenix Rebirth existed long before you became a target, Mr. Lockland. We help people disappear from dangerous situations, abusive spouses, criminal threats, political persecution. She stood, smoothing her pantsuit. Your family was simply one case among many. Why tell me all this? Why reveal your operation? Solene's smile was enigmatic. Because sometimes the truth is the greatest weapon. And because I believe you deserve to know why your world has fallen apart. She started to walk away, then paused. One more thing. Barrett asked me to tell you that despite everything, he did love you. As a brother. As family. Family doesn't betray family, Merrick said flatly. Perhaps. But consider this. If everything I've told you is true, then Barrett is Rowan's biological father, with a legitimate claim to the boy. Yet the video he prepared didn't mention that fact. He was willing to be painted as the villain in your story, to let you keep Rowan, even as he tried to expose what he saw as your crimes. She left him standing among the ancient tapestries depicting betrayal and resurrection, the weight of revelations pressing on him like a physical burden. His mother alive. Barrett not his brother by blood. Rowan not his son. Vanessa driven away, not by greed, but by fear. For a moment, doubt crept in. What if Barrett had been right? What if, in his drive to build security and control, Merrick had become something monstrous? His phone buzzed Flynn. Sir, we have a problem. Someone leaked Barrett's video to the Washington Post. It's going live in an hour. The doubt vanished, replaced by cold resolve. Whatever the truth of his family, whatever wounds lay beneath the surface, one fact remained. They had conspired against him, planned to take Rowan, attempted to destroy everything he'd built. Understanding the betrayal didn't excuse it. And as for this Phoenix Rebirth, this organization that had targeted his family and business, they would soon learn the cost of making Merrick Lockland an enemy. Execute protocol scorched earth, he told Flynn. It's time to burn Phoenix to the ground. Chapter 7. The Counterattack. Merrick stood in his command center, a secure room beneath his Westchester estate that few knew existed. Screens covered the walls, displaying news feeds, social media trends, and secure communications from his team. Barrett's video had gone viral within hours, spawning hashtags, wild conspiracy theories, and calls for investigations into Lockland security. Status, Merrick demanded, his voice betraying none of the turmoil of the past 24 hours. Barrett's video has 12 million views and climbing, reported Naomi Chun, his head of digital operations. Major news networks are running with the story. Competitors are already reaching out to our clients, offering more ethical security alternatives. Merrick nodded. The attack had been calculated for maximum damage, personally, professionally, legally. But he hadn't built Lockland security without planning for worst-case scenarios. Activate the Lazarus Protocol, he ordered. Naomi hesitated. Sir, that's our nuclear option. Once deployed, I'm aware of the consequences. Do it. She nodded and began typing rapidly. On the main screen, a program initiated, sending out dozens of pre-prepared media packages to journalists, bloggers, and social media influencers worldwide. The Lazarus Protocol was Merrick's insurance policy, a carefully constructed counter-narrative supported by selectively edited evidence. It painted Barrett as a disgruntled, unstable artist who had become obsessed with conspiracy theories after a stint in rehab. It portrayed Vanessa as a manipulative spouse who had targeted Merrick for his wealth. Most crucially, it revealed the existence of Phoenix Rebirth not as a noble operation helping victims escape, but as a sophisticated human trafficking network that charged desperate people millions for new identities. Some of it was true, some was exaggerated, some was fabricated entirely. But all of it was convincing, especially when backed by Lachlan Securities' considerable resources and influence. "What about Rowan?" asked Flynn, who stood by Merrick's side. "The DNA test results are bound to leak." "Already handled." Merrick's expression was grim. "Our medical team has prepared evidence showing Barrett falsified the tests. As far as the world is concerned, Rowan is my biological son, and Barrett's claim is a desperate attempt to gain leverage." Flynn looked troubled. "And the truth? The truth is that I've raised Rowan for 10 years. I'm the only father he's ever known." Merrick's tone brooked no further discussion. "Now, what's the status on locating the architect?" "Still working on it. Dupree disappeared after your meeting at the cloisters. But we've identified several Phoenix Rebirth safe houses in 5 countries. Teams are moving on them now." Merrick studied a map showing the known Phoenix locations. "And my mother? The address in Marseille is real. She's there, living under the name Genevieve Mercier. Local surveillance confirms she matches Geneva Lachlan's description, aged appropriately. After 5 years believing she was dead, the confirmation of his mother's survival should have brought relief. Instead, Merrick felt only a deepening sense of betrayal. How many lies had shaped his life? How many people had used him, manipulated him, while he believed he was the one in control? "Sir," Naomi interrupted his thoughts. "You should see this." On one screen, a new video was playing, Solane Dupree, looking directly into the camera. By now, Merrick Lachlan has launched his counterattack against Phoenix Rebirth. She began, her accent more pronounced under stress. "He will attempt to discredit our work, to paint us as criminals rather than what we truly are, a lifeline for those trapped by powerful, dangerous people." She held up a flash drive. "This contains the complete Phoenix Rebirth files. Every extraction we've performed, every identity we've created, and most importantly, the true identity of the architect. I've sent copies to trusted journalists worldwide with instructions to release everything if anything happens to me or to key Phoenix personnel." Her expression hardened. "Merrick Lachlan, you believe you can control the narrative, just as you've controlled everything and everyone in your life. But some truths cannot be buried, no matter how deep you dig the grave. Stand down your attack on Phoenix, or watch as your entire world burns to ashes." The video ended, and the room fell silent. "She's bluffing," Flynn finally said. "Their operation is too secretive to risk full exposure." "No," Merrick said quietly. "She's not bluffing, but neither am I." He turned to Naomi. "Track the video. Find her location. Already working on it. The signal bounced through several VPNs, but there's a pattern. We should have her within hours." Merrick nodded. "Good. Now, I need an untraceable line. It's time I spoke with Richard Havelock." 20 minutes later, Merrick sat alone in his study, phone in hand. The call connected after 2 rings. "Merrick Lachlan," said a cultured voice. "I've been expecting your call." Richard Havelock was 72 now, semi-retired from Criterion, but still its chairman emeritus. In the security industry, he was legendary, a pioneer who had built his company from nothing in the post-Vietnam era. "Havelock," Merrick acknowledged. "Or should I call you architect?" A soft chuckle. "I'm flattered you think I have the energy for such elaborate schemes at my age. But no, I'm not the mastermind you're seeking. But you are Barrett's biological father." A pause. "Yes, that much is true. Did you know? All these years, that Barrett was my son?" "Yes, Geneva told me when she ended our affair. That you were building a security company to rival Criterion?" "Also yes, that Barrett was working against you." "Not until recently." Havelock's tone shifted, became more serious. What do you want, Merrick? Revenge for an affair that happened before you could even speak? Or something more practical? I want the architect, Merrick said flatly. The real one. And if I help you? What then? Then Phoenix rebirth burns, but you and Barrett are spared the flames. Another pause, longer this time. Check your email in 10 minutes. You'll find what you need there. The line went dead. True to his word, 10 minutes later, an encrypted email arrived with a single document. A personnel file for a former CIA operative named Elias Thornfield, with a note attached. The original architect. Geneva's handler. They've been more than professional associates for the past decade. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. His mother hadn't just faked her death and fled. She had been the co-founder of Phoenix Rebirth alongside her lover, a man who had the training and connections to create an international network for making people disappear. And now, Merrick had his target. Flynn, he called, forwarding the file. Find him. Over the next 12 hours, Lachlan Security operated at war footing. Merrick directed operations from his command center, coordinating simultaneous raids on Phoenix safe houses while his digital team worked to counter Barrett's allegations in the media. The Lazarus Protocol was working. Doubt was being cast on Barrett's claims, and journalists were beginning to question the timing and motivation behind the expose. But the true victory came near midnight when Flynn burst into the command center. We've got them. Thornfield, Dupre, and 4 other Phoenix operatives holed up in a compound outside Montreal. And sir, your mother is with them. Merrick absorbed this, his expression unreadable. Surveillance. Full coverage. They're armed but not on high alert. They think their threat of data release has us backing off. And the extraction teams? Ready to move on your command. Canadian authorities have been persuaded to look the other way. Merrick studied the satellite imagery of the compound. A sprawling farmhouse surrounded by woods, isolated enough for privacy, but with clear escape routes. The perfect Phoenix safe house. I'll lead this one personally, Merrick decided. Prepare the tactical team. We move in 3 hours. As his men readied equipment and reviewed floor plans, Merrick retreated to his private office. On his desk sat a photo of Rowan, taken at his 9th birthday, his smile wide and carefree, so like Barrett's that Merrick now wondered how he hadn't seen the resemblance before. Next to it was an old photo of his mother, the only one he'd kept after her supposed death. Geneva Lachlan, with her dark hair and serious eyes, holding a young Merrick's hand at a county fair. He'd been 6, Barrett 4. A family built on lies, but still the only family he'd known. Flynn appeared in the doorway. The team is ready, sir. Merrick put down the photos. Has there been any change in Barrett or Vanessa's status? No, sir. Both still in custody. Barrett's lawyer is fighting the charges, but the evidence we planted is holding up. Merrick nodded, a decision crystallizing. After we secure the compound, I want you to release them both. Flynn looked startled. Sir, you heard me. Drop the charges, release them from custody. Merrick's eyes were cold. They're not the architects of this conspiracy. They're pawns who made poor choices. And I want them free to witness what happens to those who truly betrayed me. As dawn broke over the Montreal countryside, Merrick stood at the edge of the woods surrounding the Phoenix compound. Dressed in tactical gear, weapon at his side, he watched through high-powered binoculars as his team moved into position. In his ear, the communications channel crackled with status reports from his operatives. All units in position, Flynn reported. Awaiting your command. Merrick took one last look at the farmhouse where his mother, the woman he'd mourned, the woman who had helped create an organization dedicated to undermining him, waited unaware. Begin Operation Phoenix Fall, he ordered. No casualties if possible. I want them alive to face what's coming. As his team breached the compound, Merrick advanced through the morning mist, driven by a single thought. By nightfall, everyone who had betrayed him would understand the true meaning of consequences. Chapter 8. Confrontations. The raid on the Montreal compound was executed. Flashbang grenades disoriented the occupants while Merrick's tactical team secured the perimeter. Within minutes, they had control of the building with no shots fired. Merrick entered last, removing his tactical helmet as he stepped into the farmhouse's main living area. 6 people sat on couches and chairs, zip-tied and under guard, Solane Dupre, 3 men he recognized as Phoenix operatives from intelligence files, a silver-haired man who could only be Elias Thornfield, and his mother. Geneva Lockland, now Genevieve Mercier, looked up as he entered. Her hair had gone completely silver since he'd last seen her, and fine lines creased her face, but her dark eyes were unchanged, intelligent, calculating, and now widening with shock. "Merrick," she whispered, her voice carrying across the silent room. "Mother," he replied coolly. "You're looking well for a dead woman." Thornfield shifted slightly, positioning himself as if to shield Geneva despite his bound hands. "Merrick Lockland, I'd say it's a pleasure, but under the circumstances." Elias Thornfield, the architect. Merrick studied the man who had helped design his downfall. At around 65, Thornfield retained the alertness of his intelligence background, his lean frame still suggesting physical capability. "I've been looking forward to meeting you." "You've made a serious mistake," Solane cut in, her accent thickening with stress. "The failsafe is already in motion. Within hours, every Phoenix file will be released to the public." "No, it won't." Merrick nodded to Flynn, who placed a laptop on the coffee table and turned it to face them. On screen, a progress bar showed the systematic dismantling of Phoenix's digital failsafe. "Your backup servers in Zurich, Singapore, and Buenos Aires have been compromised. Your dead man's switches have been neutralized. Your journalist contacts are currently receiving evidence of Phoenix's involvement in human trafficking, money laundering, and identity theft." He watched their expressions shift from confidence to dismay. "That's not true," Geneva said sharply. "Phoenix helps people escape dangerous situations. We don't traffic humans. Truth is a matter of perspective, Mother. And right now, my perspective is the only one that matters." Merrick moved closer, looking down at the woman who had raised him, betrayed him, and abandoned him. 15 years. Did you ever plan to tell me you were alive?" Something like regret flickered across Geneva's face. "It was safer for everyone if Maxwell's son believed I was dead." "Maxwell's son," Merrick repeated. "Is that how you've always thought of me? As belonging to him? While Barrett was what? Your true child. Your real family." "No, I loved you both. But you were becoming like him, controlling, obsessed with security and power." She leaned forward despite her restraints. "When I faked my death, you were already showing signs of your father's worst traits. I couldn't reach you then. And later, it seemed kinder to let you believe I was gone." "Kinder." Merrick's voice was flat. "And then you helped Barrett and Vanessa plan to take my son." "Your son?" Geneva's eyes flashed. "Rowan is Barrett's biological child. And we saw how you were raising him. In isolation, grooming him to inherit your security empire, just as Maxwell molded you." Thornfield cleared his throat. "Geneva, perhaps this isn't the time." "No, Elias, he needs to hear this." Geneva's gaze never left Merrick's face. "We didn't target you, Merrick. Barrett came to us after discovering he was Rowan's father. He was worried about the boy. When we investigated, we found a child being raised in a gilded cage by a father who monitored his every move." "You know nothing about my relationship with Rowan," Merrick said coldly. "Don't I? The tracking devices in his clothes? The surveillance cameras in every room of your house? The background checks on every child he befriends?" Geneva shook her head. "You call it protection. I call it control." Flynn shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, we should move them. Law enforcement won't stay away indefinitely." Merrick nodded. "Prepare for transport." "Where are you taking us?" Solane demanded. "Somewhere private. Somewhere we can have a long, uninterrupted conversation about Phoenix rebirth, its operations, and its future." Merrick's smile didn't reach his eyes. Or rather, its lack of a future. As his team began moving the prisoners, Thornfield caught Merrick's gaze. "Whatever you're planning, remember that your mother is part of this. Whatever grievances you have with me, with Phoenix, she's still your family." "Family," Merrick repeated, the word bitter on his tongue. "I've learned a great deal about family recently. How easily they betray, how willingly they lie, and how desperately they sometimes try to protect those they love." Thornfield countered. "Even from themselves." Before Merrick could respond, his phone rang, an emergency line reserved for his most sensitive operations. The caller ID showed Preston Winters, the security detail assigned to Rowan. "Excuse me," Merrick said, stepping away to answer. "Report." "Sir," Winters's voice was tight with tension. "We have a situation. Vanessa and Barrett have been released as ordered, but they didn't appear at the monitoring checkpoints. And Rowan is missing from the estate." Cold dread washed over Merrick. "What? When?" "Within the last hour. Mrs. Winters was with him in the garden, then went inside to prepare lunch. When she returned, he was gone. Security footage shows Barrett's car approaching the service entrance, but it's outside camera range. Lock down the estate. Alert all airport and border security with their descriptions. And get the helicopter ready. I'm coming back now." Merrick ended the call, fury and fear battling within him. Flynn approached, concern evident. "Problem, sir. Change of plans. Barrett and Vanessa have taken Rowan." Merrick's voice was deadly calm. "Secure these prisoners at Site B. I'm returning to New York immediately." Geneva, who had been watching intently, called out as guards moved to take her away. "Merrick, Barrett wouldn't harm his son. They're trying to protect him from you." Merrick turned back, his expression glacial. "They've kidnapped a child who has known me as his father for 10 years. They've traumatized a boy who has already been through too much because of adult lies." He stepped closer to his mother. "And when I find them, when I bring my son home, I will dismantle Phoenix so thoroughly that not even its name will remain in memory." The helicopter flight back to New York gave Merrick time to direct the search operation. His security teams coordinated with sympathetic contacts in law enforcement, monitoring highways, airports, and train stations. But Barrett had planned well. They had vanished as completely as any Phoenix extraction. By midnight, Merrick was back in his command center, reviewing footage from every camera within a 50-mile radius of the estate. Nothing. It was as if Barrett, Vanessa, and Rowan had evaporated. How did they even know about the hidden service in trance? Merrick demanded, fatigue and frustration edging his voice. Flynn looked uncomfortable. "Barrett helped design the estate's security system, sir. Before you had concerns about him. Another betrayal, another oversight." Merrick had trusted his brother implicitly, given him access to his home, his business, his life. And Barrett had used that trust to plan the perfect extraction of Merrick's own son. "Sir," Naomi approached cautiously, "we found something." A private airfield in Connecticut reported a charter flight to Montreal 3 hours ago. The manifest lists a family of 3. Names don't match, but the descriptions could fit. "Montreal," Merrick repeated. "They're headed for the compound." He turned to Flynn. "Status of the prisoners?" "Secure at Site B. Initial interrogations have begun with the Phoenix operatives, but we're holding Thornfield and your mother in isolation as ordered." Merrick made a swift decision. "Bring my mother to the video conference room." Now, 20 minutes later, Merrick faced Geneva on a secure video link. She looked composed despite her situation, her silver hair pulled back, her expression guarded. "Barrett and Vanessa have taken Rowan," Merrick said without preamble. "They're heading to Montreal, to you." Geneva's surprise seemed genuine. "That wasn't the plan. They were supposed to wait until we confirmed successful extraction of the Montreal team." "Well, your team has been extracted by me, and now Barrett is improvising." Merrick leaned closer to the camera. "Where would he go? What's Phoenix's backup rendezvous point?" Geneva hesitated, conflict evident in her eyes. "Mother," Merrick said, allowing some of his desperation to show. "Whatever you think of me, of how I've raised him, Rowan is a 10-year-old boy who's been torn from his home, told his father isn't his father, and is now a fugitive. Help me find him. Please. You'll use Phoenix's network to find them, then destroy us," Geneva said quietly. "I can't sacrifice everyone we've helped, everyone we might still help." "I'll make you a deal," Merrick said, the words surprising even him. "Help me find Rowan, and I'll let Phoenix continue, under strict parameters. No more operations on American soil. No more targeting my clients or my interests. But the network can survive to help those who truly need it." Geneva studied him, searching for deception. And Barrett and Vanessa? Merrick's jaw tightened. Barrett has a right to know his son, but kidnapping isn't the answer. I want joint custody arrangements, legal and transparent. Vanessa. He paused. Vanessa made her choice when she lied about Rowan's paternity for 10 years. But I won't pursue charges if she agrees to my terms. And why should I believe you'll honor this agreement after you've already dismantled our fail-safes? Because I'm Maxwell Laughlin's son, Merrick said with grim honesty. And he always kept his word, even when that word was a threat. Geneva considered this, then nodded slowly. There's a secondary safe house near Lac Mégantic, about 3 hours from Montreal. A cabin by the lake, registered to a shell company called Blue Heron Holdings. She provided the coordinates. If they're running blind, that's where Barrett would go. It's stocked, secure, and off the grid. Thank you. Merrick stood to end the call. Merrick, Geneva said, stopping him. Barrett truly believes he's saving Rowan for becoming what Maxwell made you. Why fail to prevent you from becoming? Merrick's expression hardened. And what is that exactly? A man who values control over connection, security over love. Her eyes held his. Please prove us wrong. The call ended, leaving Merrick alone with her words echoing in his mind. As he organized the team to head to Lac Mégantic, he found himself wondering, not for the first time, if there was truth in the accusations. Had he become his father's son in ways he'd never intended? Had his drive for security created a prison instead of a sanctuary? But such doubts would have to wait. Right now, his priority was finding Rowan, his son, in every way that mattered, regardless of DNA. And when he did, Barrett and Vanessa would learn that while Merrick Laughlin might be willing to negotiate with Phoenix, with his mother, even with the man who had helped orchestrate his downfall, he would never forgive those who had stolen his child. The helicopter lifted off into the night, carrying Merrick toward a confrontation that would determine not just Rowan's future, but the kind of man Merrick himself would choose to be. Chapter 9. The Reckoning. Dawn broke over Lac Mégantic as Merrick's helicopter circled high above the tree line, staying out of audible range of the cabin nestled against the shoreline. Through binoculars, he could see smoke rising from the chimney and a small boat tied to a wooden dock. Barrett's rental car was parked beside the cabin, its presence confirming Geneva's information. Thermal imaging shows 3 people inside, Flynn reported, studying a tablet displaying the feed from their surveillance drone. 1 small, child-sized, in what appears to be a bedroom. 2 adults in the main living area. Merrick lowered the binoculars, his mind calculating options. He had enough men to surround the cabin, enough firepower to force surrender. But the risk to Rowan was unacceptable. This would require a different approach. Land 2 miles south, he instructed the pilot. I'm going alone. Flynn looked alarmed. Sir, that's not advisable. Barrett may be desperate. Barrett won't harm me, Merrick said with certainty. He spent his life avoiding becoming our father. Violence isn't his way. He checked his sidearm nonetheless. Keep the team ready, but hold position unless I signal. If this goes badly, extract Rowan at all costs. The hike through the woods gave Merrick time to prepare, not just tactically, but emotionally. The anger that had driven him since discovering Vanessa's betrayal had evolved into something colder, more focused. He understood now that this confrontation wasn't just about punishment. It was about defining what remained of his fractured family. He approached the cabin cautiously, noting the security cameras Barrett had predictably installed. Making no attempt to hide, Merrick walked directly to the front door and knocked. Moments later, Barrett opened it, his face registering shock. Merrick? How? We need to talk, Merrick said simply. About Rowan. About everything. Barrett hesitated, then stepped back, allowing Merrick to enter. Inside, Vanessa stood by the fireplace, her face pale with fear. Through an open door, Merrick could see Rowan sleeping in a small bedroom, his favorite stuffed dinosaur clutched against his chest. You came alone? Barrett asked, suspicion evident in his voice. My team is nearby, Merrick acknowledged. But this is between us. He turned to Vanessa. You look terrible. She gave a strangled laugh. Being a fugitive doesn't suit me, I suppose. Sit down, Barrett said, gesturing to the couch. We should talk civilly for Rowan's sake. Merrick remained standing. Civility ended when you took my son. My son, Barrett countered, but without real heat. At least biologically. I've raised him for 10 years, Merrick said. I've been there for every nightmare, triumph, skin knee, and school project. Biology isn't the only thing that makes a father. And surveillance? Barrett challenged. Control? Teaching him that trust is foolish and security is everything? Is that fatherhood too? The accusation stung because it held truth. Merrick had installed security measures throughout Rowan's life. Tracking devices, surveillance, background checks on friends and teachers. He'd told himself it was protection, but hadn't it also been control? I've made mistakes, Merrick admitted, surprising both Barrett and Vanessa. But kidnapping isn't the solution. Vanessa stepped forward. We didn't plan this. When they released us, we thought it was a trap. We thought you might. She trailed off. Might what? Harm you? Harm Rowan? Merrick's voice hardened. Whatever you think of me, I would never hurt my son. But you had us arrested, Barrett said. You destroyed Phoenix's fail-safes, captured our operatives, including your own mother. After you conspired to take my child and destroy my company, Merrick countered. What did you expect? That I would simply let you vanish with Rowan? Barrett ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it momentarily transported Merrick back to their childhood, to moments when his little brother had come to him for protection, for guidance. We thought we were saving him, Barrett said quietly, from becoming controlled, from being shaped into your image the way you were shaped into Maxwell's. The parallel struck Merrick forcefully. Had he become his father without realizing it? Not in violence, perhaps, but in rigid control, in suspicion, in isolation. I spoke with our mother, Merrick said, changing tack. She told me where to find you. Vanessa looked startled. Geneva helped you? In exchange for terms. Merrick met Barrett's gaze. I'm willing to negotiate. Joint custody of Rowan. Legal, transparent arrangements that acknowledge your biological connection while respecting the bond he and I have formed. Barrett stared, clearly not having expected this. And Phoenix continues with restrictions. No operations on American soil. No targeting my interests or my clients. And complete transparency with me about its activities. Why would you allow that? Vanessa asked suspiciously. Why not dismantle it completely? Because my mother believes in its purpose, Merrick said simply. And because I've seen enough evidence to know that some people truly do need to escape dangerous situations. His gaze hardened. But Phoenix will never again operate in shadows where I can't see it. Barrett and Vanessa exchanged glances, silently communicating in the way of people who share significant history. And us? Barrett finally asked. What happens to Vanessa and me? That depends on what happens next. Merrick moved to the window, looking out at the placid lake. You took my son, betrayed my trust, conspired against me with an organization founded by our mother and her lover. We never intended. Vanessa began, but Merrick cut her off. Intentions don't matter. Actions do. He turned back to face them. Here's what happens now. We wake Rowan. We explain, in age-appropriate terms, that Barrett is his biological father, that adults have made mistakes, and that we're going to work together to make things right. Then we all return to New York, where legal agreements will be drawn up regarding custody and Phoenix's future operations. And if we refuse, Barrett asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Then my team moves in, Rowan is extracted, and both of you face the full consequences of kidnapping, fraud, and conspiracy. Phoenix is dismantled completely, and everyone associated with it faces prosecution. Merrick's voice was matter-of-fact. I've already prepared evidence packages for law enforcement in 12 countries. One call from me, and Phoenix burns with everyone inside it, including our mother. The calculated ruthlessness of the threat hung in the air between them. You'd really sacrifice Geneva? Your own mother? Vanessa whispered. I've already mourned her once, Merrick replied coldly. The woman I knew died 5 years ago. The person who helped you try to steal my son is someone else entirely. Barrett studied his brother's face, seeing the resolve there. You never bluff. No, I don't. After a long moment, Barrett nodded. Your terms are surprisingly reasonable, considering. I agree. Vanessa. Merrick turned to his wife, soon-to-be ex-wife. She hesitated, then nodded as well. For Rowan's sake, I agree. Good. Merrick felt the tension in his shoulders ease slightly. Now, let's wake him up. Together. Rowan's confusion gave way to a complex mix of emotions as they carefully explained the situation. That Barrett was his biological father, that he would now have two dads in his life, that the adults had made mistakes but were working to fix them. So you're still my dad? Rowan asked Merrick, his voice small. Always, Merrick assured him, allowing genuine emotion to show. Nothing changes that. Ever. But Uncle Barrett is also my dad? Yes, Barrett said gently. And I've loved you since the day you were born. I've just been loving you from a distance. Rowan considered this with the straightforward logic of a child. Does this mean I get 2 birthdays? The tension broke, laughter rippling through the room. For the first time in months, Merrick felt something like hope, that perhaps from the wreckage of betrayal and lies, something healthier might emerge. The helicopter returned them to New York, where the complex process of rebuilding began. Legal documents were drafted. Phoenix operatives, including Thornfield and Geneva, were released under strict monitoring protocols. And Rowan began splitting his time between Merrick's estate and a new apartment Barrett had purchased nearby. 1 month after the confrontation at Lac-Mégantic, Merrick sat in his study, reviewing the final custody arrangement before signing. A knock at the door interrupted his concentration. Enter, he called, expecting Flynn with security updates. Instead, Geneva stepped into the room, looking uncertain despite her elegant appearance. She'd aged in the past 5 years, silver hair and lines around her eyes testament to a life of secrets and stress. The security team said I could find you here, she said, her voice softer than he remembered. Merrick set down his pen. Mother, I didn't expect you until the formal signing tomorrow. I wanted to see you alone first. She moved further into the room, taking in the changes he'd made since her death, the warmer colors, the photographs of Rowan prominently displayed. You've made this space your own. That tends to happen when someone leaves permanently, Merrick replied, unable to keep the edge from his voice. Geneva winced slightly. I deserve that. She sat in the chair across from his desk. I want you to know that I never stopped loving you, Merrick, even when I feared what you were becoming. What was that exactly? What terrible monster justified faking your death and helping Barrett steal my son? Not a monster, she said carefully. Just Maxwell. I watched you build walls, create systems of control, distance yourself from genuine connection. The same patterns I saw in your father before the drinking, before the violence. I never raised a hand to Vanessa or Rowan, Merrick said firmly. No, but you built a gilded cage around them. Around yourself. She leaned forward. The tracking devices in Rowan's clothes? The surveillance in every room? Those weren't just security measures, Merrick. They were symptoms of something deeper. Fear of loss, fear of betrayal. Merrick wanted to dismiss her words, but they echoed his own recent reflections. He had been controlling, had monitored Rowan's every move, had designed his son's life with the same precision he applied to security operations. Fear isn't always irrational, he said finally. Sometimes people really are plotting against you. Geneva's smile was sad, a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you treat everyone as a potential threat, eventually they become one. They sat in silence for a moment, years of separation and secrets hanging between them. I've dissolved Phoenix, Geneva finally said, surprising him. The network, the safe houses, the operatives, all of it. Elias and I are retiring to France, as ourselves this time. Why? Our agreement allowed Phoenix to continue with restrictions. Because it's time for something new, something that doesn't rely on secrets and lies. She reached into her bag and withdrew a slim folder. This is everything. Every Phoenix operation, identity created, safe house location. I'm giving it to you without conditions. Merrick took the folder cautiously. Why? Because you're my son. Because despite everything, I trust that you'll use this information wisely. She stood, smoothing her skirt. And because I hope that by giving up control, I might set an example worth following. The implication was clear, and for once, Merrick didn't bristle at the suggestion. The past month had forced him to reconsider many things: his relationship with Rowan, his security measures, his need for absolute control. "Will you come back?" he asked, the question surprising them both. To visit Rowan? He should know his grandmother. Geneva's eyes filled with unexpected tears. "I like that very much." After she left, Merrick sat alone, considering the folder in his hands. It represented complete victory. Every secret of Phoenix Rebirth handed to him freely. He could use it to monitor former operatives, to prevent any resurgence of the network, to maintain control over the situation indefinitely. Instead, after a long moment of contemplation, he fed the documents into his shredder, page by page. The next day, as they gathered in Porter Ridgway's office to sign the custody agreement, Merrick looked around at the assembled group. Barrett, nervous but determined. Vanessa, subdued but composed. Geneva and Thornfield, holding hands like the aging couple they were. And Rowan, curious and resilient, adapting to his new reality with the flexibility of childhood. They were a strange, broken family, reconstructed from lies and betrayals into something new and untested. Trust would come slowly, if at all. The wounds were deep, the history complex. But as he signed his name to the document granting Barrett legal recognition as Rowan's father, Merrick recognized that he had a choice. He could cling to resentment, maintain vigilance against further betrayal, continue to treat everyone as a potential threat. Or he could begin the difficult work of dismantling the walls he'd built, not just around his family, but around his heart. As they left the attorney's office, Rowan slipped his hand into Merrick's, looking up with clear blue eyes so much like Barrett's. "Dad, can we get ice cream?" Both dads. Barrett looked over, uncertainty written on his face. Merrick hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Ice cream sounds good, champ." He met Barrett's gaze over Rowan's head. Both dads. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. The betrayals ran too deep. The wounds were still too fresh. But it was a beginning. A small step away from his father's legacy of control and isolation. A choice to prioritize his son's well-being over his own desire for retribution. And for now, that would have to be enough. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.